Welcome to the Wellbeing Table, the podcast where we have honest, courageous, and deep conversations that children and young people need us to be having. At the Wellbeing Table, impact is the only criteria for who sits in this chair. Every guest I bring to this table is here because of their work, their voice, and their story, and is genuinely shifting the dial for children and young people's mental health. And today is absolutely no different. My guest today is someone I'm genuinely excited to be in conversation with. Bhishma Asare MBE, known to me as Bish, is the founder of Rap Therapy and a teacher who is doing something truly unique in the wellbeing space. Bish uses the power of rap and music to connect with young people in a way that traditional therapy often can't. And today he's here to share his first-hand perspective on what young people are experiencing right now and why we need to listen differently. I am your host, Nicole Henry, and it's time to pull up a chair. Let's get into it. Hi, Vish. So before we get into rap therapy, I love to start with what you've been seeing with young people recently that made you feel like something needed to change.
Um, how you doing?
Lovely to have you.
So, I think what I was seeing with young people where I kind of figured something needs to change is there was a lot of, number one, there's a lot of violence, especially where I'm based. But a lot of that violence is also linked to people not being able to express how they feel. So, what I was finding in schools is there's kids that are getting kicked out for violent behavior, misbehaving, not being able to communicate properly. And all that stems from not being able to kind of express how they feel in a moment about something in a healthy way. So you might have, let's say, a child who will lash out at a teacher, all because the teacher said to them, no, they can't go to the toilet. But they, what the teacher doesn't know is there's also underlying factors there as to why they're lashing out. Maybe it's that it triggers their memory of something like a parent, for example. It triggers their memory of someone who was quite horrible to them. But overall, I guess it's just I felt that children didn't really have that means to express themselves. That's why I've kind of gone in that direction of. That's why I've gone in that direction of obviously rap therapy and teaching them how to express themselves.
Amazing. So tell us actually a little bit about rap therapy and what you do, and also for our guests, just so you know that Bish is from the UK as well, because we're going to be opening it out. We're going to be opening it up to both the UK and the UAE.
Yeah, so I'll start with the backstory. So the backstory goes all the way back to 2017. 2017, I created an EP, and that's obviously like a mini album. It was called Invisible Guidelines. It got a lot of media attention. So the Metro, the Guardian, the Advertiser, East London Lines, they all wrote stories on the music because the music was, it didn't take the generic form of swearing, talking about how, like, talking all the negative stuff that music kind of has those connotations linked with, if that even makes sense. But the kind of idea was talking about the change that needs to happen within the community, but it also tells my story from one perspective all the way to the end of the EP. And it got a lot of media attention, but I didn't like that media attention, funnily enough. I actually wanted to make some element of impact. So I sat down with my brother and I said to him, I want to start a business. What type of business can I start? And he said, what are you good at? I said to him, not 100% sure what I'm good at. And he said to me, well, what have you been in the newspapers for? And I said to him, music. And he said to me, well, that's probably what you're good at then. He said to me, by the time I finish my sandwich, I need you to write down 5 ideas about like what you possibly could do. And he's obviously a really quick eater and I'm a slow writer. So he's writing all, I'm writing all of these examples down of what we could do, all these ideas. And the one that stood out was help young people express themselves through rap. And we trialed it in a school called Lanfranc, which if you know Lanfranc in Croydon, it's like, it used to be, I don't know about now, but it used to be a really, really bad school, especially when you consider the gang culture within that kind of area. But we worked with 4 young people in that school, and the school turned around and they said to us, well, what have you done with these young people? And we obviously ran the workshops with them, 4 workshops with them. And I just said to the school, we taught them how to express themselves about how they feel in certain situations. And all of those students did really well. They were able to pass school, they were able to get through the process, and they ultimately avoided permanent exclusion.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. I love that how it's just grown from a little seed and now look where it is. How many years now has Rap Fair been running?
Uh, so 2018, so that's I think 8 years if I'm not mistaken.
Lovely. Congratulations. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so obviously I know that you're in the classroom as well, and you've got that therapeutic side. So what are young people currently expressing through rap or in their writing or in school right now that they're not saying out loud?
Ooh, I think that it's always changing. So it's forever changing what they're. But I
Yeah.
think around this period of time, it's a lot to do with exams. It's a lot to do with the pressure that's linked to exams. But then I think if you look at some of the younger years, we got a lot of there's a lot of tension around like online. So when they're online and obviously dealing with situations online, going back and forth with people, I would say that it depends. It depends on the school. It depends on the demographic in the school. It depends on. There's so many different factors. But when we go to schools, for example, we might ask a teacher, well, if you give us 8 students, what is it that you want us to achieve with these 8 students? And they might say that all of these 8 students really struggle with friendships. And we would say, okay, cool. Well, they struggle with friendships. Let's get them to write a song about what it is to be a good friend. That we're able to delve into the nooks and crannies of what it actually means to be a good friend. Other than because usually you'd base your friendships off of. I think you base your friendships off of what you usually see, and obviously your
Yeah.
experiences. But if you don't know what a good friendship actually looks like, then how are you supposed to know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no role model of a friend, right?
Exactly. So that's why we kind of get them to write it down, and it's deeper than just writing because they have to actually think and consider, well, what is a good friend, and then they have to try and figure it out and get that in their raps.
And how does that come out like with the children in the session? Like, do they really struggle to like find that base understanding, or is it something that comes to them quite naturally that they know what it takes to be a good friend? They just struggle to make good friends. Does that
Yeah.
make?
So this is a good question. Again, I think it's case by case.
Mm,
Not all children are the same, but
yeah.
I think that the majority of children have a base understanding of what it means to be a good friend. But then some of the conversations that we have unlock what it means to be a good friend as well. So that we're not just sitting there and writing raps 24/7. We're also having like wider conversations. So I'll give you a bit of an example. It's a bit off of the topic of being a good friend. We we ran like a program where children who came from lower class families or working class families who were on free school meals, they were able to attend the program which we did. Now, during that program, we're supposed to provide free food for the children as well. So we got like a couple of people in the area to cook up some food. We had all the food there. And when it was time to serve the food, we had obviously a whole bunch of boys and a whole bunch of girls, and the boys just kind of rushed in front of the girls. And I said, wait, why are you guys going first? Like, why don't you
Yeah.
ladies go first? And they said, well, equal rights, right? And it was really interesting because then it opened up a conversation about, well, is chivalry dead? And it opened up a whole conversation about what does it actually mean to be equal? Because if I put you in a boxing ring and I put her in a boxing ring, who's gonna win that fight? And
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes when you're not taught about things like manners, respect, and just kind of chivalry and and just being a good person in general, often you just fall into this kind of category of, well, I'm going to do what everyone else is doing, and if no one's taught me this, then I think it's right. So that's why we kind of break it down. We don't just say, all right, write a rap. We have those conversations that open up that kind of, I guess, that little point in the brain where it says, oh, actually, there's another way of thinking about this.
Just to touch on that, do you think that's kind of gone down then, the chivalry? Like, do you think it's changed?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
especially with like things like TikTok and Instagram, mainly TikTok. Like, you'll see those podcasts where you have the boys and the girls arguing, or the men and the women arguing. And
Okay.
they're kind of going back and forth with each other. I think a lot of boys, especially, their view on girls has changed. But then, especially from when I was growing up and you was growing up,
Yeah.
but even the girls would look at it like, all right, well, if you're not taking me out to sexy fish or all these, you know what I'm saying? All these
Yeah.
at what, at 15 years old? Like it's
Really? At 15, they're saying
crazy
this?
at 15
Wow.
years old, and it.
Hold a minute. Where did they get the money from? What?
You see, this is it. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So it's just like that. Where are you getting your information from? You're getting your information from the internet, and I feel like when I was growing up, and when you was growing up, possibly like my information didn't solely come from the internet. We had the internet, but not as much as how it is now.
Yeah.
My information came from what I saw. My information also came from things like movies, um, but everything is now TikTok, TikTok, TikTok.
Yeah. Wow, that's scary, That's
Very,
really
very,
scary.
very scary because then you kind of think about like this generation, and I'm starting to sound like my parents a bit because they used to
Of
always
course.
your generation, blah blah blah, and now I'm saying what their generation. But it's quite interesting because this generation that's under us, I'm kind of scared for the generation under that because if all the information has come from TikTok for this generation, that generation,
It's gonna happen. Yeah. It's changing so quickly though. It's so fast. It is very hard to digest.
yeah,
That's the best way to say it because
it
it
is.
is. It's just we just don't know where it's going essentially. And if everybody is following this way of TikTok and AI and what is looks nice, let's just say, and lacking the foundational stuff, I don't know what it's going to potentially look like.
But it's just no, yeah, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying, but the problem is mostly to do with the thinking element of it. Like everyone, like especially young people now, as much as I love being around young people and working with young people, a lot of them aren't thinkers. So they're pretty much having the internet think for them, or they're getting. I would ask a student something like a paragraph on the character of Sheila in Inspector Court. A lot of children, yes, they are capable of doing it, but they're lazy, so they'll just type it into AI and then it'll come a paragraph as to as to Sheila.
Yeah, it's easier for them then, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. So it's just like my thing with this generation right now is, are they actually thinkers? Are they thinkers, or are they kind of just being led by this internet and TikTok and things that aren't even, it's not even accurate information.
Yeah, because it's whatever it's their Google, let's just call it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it is. I remember back in the day we had Arch G's and it was,
Yeah.
helping us a little bit, but it was nowhere near as Google. So when Google came, it was like, wow. But I think that was wow for everybody, like for the masses.
Yeah.
But now with this AI world, it's insane.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But what can you do? You kind of go with the flow, isn't it? And you kind of
yeah.
you have to. I want to say grow with the times. It's important, but then at the same time, it's like how like do you grow with it, or are you letting it outgrow you? And I think yeah,
That's a perfect phrase for it. Yeah.
and I think that's what's happening. Like we're no longer, or even older people. I think we're not even the thinkers anymore.
Mm,
The internet is thinking for us. So
yeah. No, it's true. So just going back a little bit, in terms of behaviour, because I know you mentioned that as well. Behaviour gets labelled quite quickly in school. So from your perspective, like what's often misunderstood about students who seem to be disengaged or disruptive? Because you touched on it a little bit. I just want to dive into it.
there's so many factors to this. I think like if I could take a student who is deemed as bad in school, and I think about my interactions with that child. I think there's a few things. If I throw like a capable student into a bottom set class because they are effectively naughty, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bottom set. So
Yeah.
a lot of schools, what they do is you've built up this behavior kind of stigma around you. I'm a badly behaved child. What you'd find is teachers will throw you in those bottom sets, and they throw you in those bottom sets because they don't want to deal with your behavior.
Yeah.
So you're in a bottom set with all of these children. You know that you can do the work, but you're still kind of in that space where no one actually believes that you can achieve. And I think that there's so many factors. So like things like, is that child being challenged? Because children are stupid.
Yeah. That was my first thing. Yeah.
They're not stupid. Like if they know that you think that they're dumb, they're not going to, like, they have no respect for you anyway. So where that respect doesn't even exist, it's like, why should they behave for you? And then you got the element of, am I challenging you on a human level? So, for example, if I know that you're doing something bad, am I letting you do that something that's bad, or am I actually pulling you up on it? And then there's the element of, and again, there's so many different factors, and not all children are the same. There's loads of different factors that come to play. And then there's the element of, who are the parents to these children? And I'm not a parent, but I'm pretty sure that if I was a parent, I'd have a good idea of how to parent.
Of course.
So you take like a child who gets into a lot of trouble, and that parent they have the option to understand where that teacher is coming from, or they have the option to support their child and defend their child, even though they know what their child has done is wrong. And I find that what I'm finding is, so when I was in school and I did something naughty, I'd get in trouble from my parents. But now I don't think that that's the case fully. I think it's that the parents, there's so much kickback towards like schools and teachers, and it's like a whole kind of tug of war, where you're kind of going back and forth with the parent instead of the parent just saying, "All right, well he's done this, I'm gonna sort it out."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So do you think we've lost that element? Because just bringing my UAE perspective here,
yeah,
I see that.
yeah.
And I just thought maybe it was here because I didn't really see it much in the UK. So do you think we're losing that perspective of like parent support and being in unity? Because beforehand, I think when I was going to school, if you got into trouble, your parents were on it. You'd be terrified, for a teacher to tell your parents that you're into trouble, right? But I don't really see that essence as much anymore.
Yeah, no, we're not losing it. It's gone.
Wow. It's gone.
It's gone. Like,
Wow.
don't get me wrong. There's like a few parents that they'll support the school, they'll support the teacher,
100%, yeah.
but it's gone. Like the whole kind of culture of parenting has shifted as well. The whole kind of culture of how people view the education system has also changed. And a lot of parents are basing their kind of experiences of education on their experience in education when they was in school, and it's a very different world, because how the children are being taught now is not the same as how I was being taught when I was in school. So my view can't be, all right, well, I was picked on by this teacher, so he must be getting picked on. It's definitely changed, and I think that if you look at things like the government has taken a lot of power away from parents to ultimately discipline their children. And I don't mean that in the sense of, all right, well, beat your children. That's not what I'm saying. They've taken away a lot of power from the parents. So that means that I feel like there's a power shift, and a lot of children have a bit more power or a bit more edge against their parents. Um, 'Cause if I was a child in school right now, I could make up a lie, um, tell the school my mum is hitting me, and then automatically, boom, safeguarding, social services are involved. Often the police are involved as well. So, and children aren't oblivious to that. Children understand these systems. So, again, like I said, I'm not condoning beat your children. That's not what I'm saying. What I am
Yeah.
saying is power has been taken away from parents to actually discipline how they would like to discipline. I asked a child once, what happens when you do something wrong? And they said, oh, my mum will take my PlayStation away. And I said, okay, cool, good. And then they said, oh, yeah, but I'll get it back the next day. And I was thinking to myself, all right, so you're playing the system of even your parents.
Yeah.
You know you're going to get it back tomorrow. So
Mm.
you know that you can misbehave, get it back tomorrow. And there's no kind of,
Repercussion, the
yeah,
consequence. Yeah. Mm.
exactly.
Yeah. And that is scary in itself, because when I think about that kind of things, I think real world, right? And the real world isn't a place for prisoners. Like, it's not a safe place like that. It's a dog eat dog world. So
Yes.
in my head, I'm thinking, how are these kids gonna survive? But at the same time, I think they would survive,
Yeah.
because they're so what is the word? I was gonna say rife, but like they've just got that energy and that sass and that vim, let's just say, like, to be able to, I feel, to handle it.
Do you know what though? I was kind of thinking about something. I had a conversation with one of my friends the other day. I said to them, if we kind of flip things on its head and and we take the children of today and they put them in the era that I was growing up and you was growing up, I said to myself they wouldn't be able to survive. But then I said, if you flip it on its head and put me right now in their generation, I don't think I would be able to survive. Look at it from two different lenses. And
Yeah.
again, it's that same thing. Our parents telling us, "Oh, your generation, this, that," but we turned out okay. We turned out okay. You know? Yeah. So the same way I'm saying that, I'm going off of what I see in my experiences.
Mm.
That's what I see. But that generation will be okay. It's just
Yeah.
I, I fear I fear that they're not going to be thinkers when they grow older. Something is going to think for them.
Yeah. Which is kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back a little bit into rap therapy. I'm going to jump in here because I just feel like it depends what
Yeah.
you're saying. So what is it about rap and songwriting specifically that creates a different kind of access to young people's emotions?
I think it's a cool outlet. Well, not every, but the majority of young people that I know, they listen to rap. But a lot of them have never been told that you can rap, or they've never been told, well, this is how to structure a rap, or this is how to write a rap, or rap needs to rhyme, even though these are all self-explanatory things. So I think that the thing that makes it quite unique is the format of music. If you take the format of music in itself, so when rap therapy started, we got a lot of kickback from schools. So we got rap and then we got therapy. These are two things that have negative connotations, and we've put it together.
Yeah.
Now, even though that's the case, like children look at rap and they're not saying to themselves, "Oh, rap negative." That's not what they're saying. They're saying,
No.
"Oh, rap cool." So I think it kind of allows them to express themselves in a cool, unique way where they also can relate to it based on the fact that they're literally listening to this music every day. So that's why, and also if you think about like rap therapy and obviously the story behind it, I can't sing. I mean, yeah, you don't want me to start singing.
Should I make you give us a little something?
Oh, you don't want to hear that. So I couldn't call it like R&B therapy. I couldn't do that. Rap is what
Yeah.
I know. And when I was growing up, I was using rap for therapy, and I didn't even know that this was what I was doing for a very long time, talking about all your feelings and emotions. And it's an acceptable, I guess that's the word. It's acceptable, isn't it? Acceptable if it's in that kind of
Yeah.
form.
So, okay, something to spark that conversation then. So, obviously, what yours is more positive. You're speaking about your emotions, but generally, rap is about people's emotions or life or their story, right? So, how do you then channel that so that it's focused more on positive? Because sometimes we listen to rap song, it's not very positive and it's not very child friendly. So I understand why there was kickback, because naturally schools would be like, we don't want to encourage this behavior because of, what, let me think, is it drill music, right? that's very much, I've never really listened to it, but it's very much hard and rough, right? Yeah, so, and the culture around it, I understand why schools would be like, no, I don't think so, because of the connotation that it has around it. What am I saying here? I'm trying to say is, how did you then ultimately persuade and change their perception? Because obviously you'd have to educate the teachers first, right? For them to be able to actually bring you in. So yeah, what was that like?
So it's I'm a big believer of you create your own culture. I'm a big believer. Even if there's already an existing culture, you can create a subculture or a culture below that or a culture that goes alongside that. If you think about even, so I'll take my music as an example. My music, if you listen to my music, I don't swear in my music. I don't talk like nonsense in my music. And to kind of break that stigma, especially of schools, we set out our rules and our expectations very clear from the start. So we have a set of rules which the children have to adhere to, and that's no swearing, no cussing, no degrading of any race, religion, or gender. And that set of rules is kind of like the, I guess the core values of what rap therapy stands for as well. So those values, if we hear, all right, well, you're trying to swear, okay, cool. So we deal with children who are on like pupil referral units a lot of the time, and those children often been kicked out of school already, so they have nothing to lose. So if we set
Yeah.
these rules and these boundaries, and we say to them, all right, no swearing, and they try to swear, our question to them will be, well, how do you say this thing in a different way? And what I mean by that is there's always two ways to say the same thing.
Yeah.
And where there's always two ways to say the same thing, I think if you listen, so on our website, there's a set of songs that children have made. You wouldn't hear one swear word in all of that,
Okay. Wow.
because there's always two ways to say the same thing. So if someone says, I really want to say, I really want to say, "F my dad," yeah. Well, how can you change that? How can you rephrase that, restructure that? Like,
Yeah.
think about it. Because we always say as well that swearing is lazy. I think that to swear in your music is lazy. I know that a lot of the presenters that we work with, especially there's another presenter that works with rap therapy named Tubby Boy. He,
Okay.
he says that as well. He says it's lazy. To swear is lazy. It's just like a non. It's, you just can't articulate yourself properly. If you
Would you
have
say it's a filler type thing?
Yes, you know, of course, if you have to swear, it means that you don't actually know how to articulate this feeling or this particular moment. You're just adding a word in just to make it sound good. But realistically, like I said, there's always two ways to say the same thing. And to break that stigma is, I think, when we also have an open environment. And what I mean by that is, all right, school's unsure. Fine. Come and see what we actually do. And when they actually see what we do, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Um, and this is how we kind of get that repeat business, because we always say to schools, well, it's an open space. Teachers are more than welcome to come through as they want to see how this operates. And when they see it, they're like, all right, this is not what we initially thought it was. That's how it grew, because I think the first, so we had so many no's before we got our first yes.
Okay.
The lady that gave us our first yes, she's moved to other schools since, and
Okay.
we've gone to those other schools since.
Oh, amazing.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah, it just takes the one yes, and then when they see
Yeah.
what you do and you showcase what you actually do, and it actually works as well, schools talk to one another. So
Amazing. Oh. Okay, can you share a moment where a young person has expressed something through their writing that has stayed with you?
yeah, there's a moment. There's a lot of moments. There's one that in particular really stands out to me. So in, I believe it was 2018 or 19, might have been 18. There was a child who I was working with. I was working with 10 children, and I was working with them throughout the course of the year. So the entire academic year, one day I'll come in and I'll deliver a workshop. The one thing that really stuck with me was because this child, he didn't really want to write raps. He didn't really want to do any of that stuff. And then I said to them, right, now we're going to rap about a story, but the story that you're going to rap about is about someone in your life that meant a lot to you. That either and the complexities around these children is a lot of like their parents would have walked out or been in prison or dead. And this child wrote about his friend, like his best friend, who had died in a fire. This is like the hardest kid in the school, and he was like in tears as he was writing it. And I was thinking to myself, this is deep. But then also he was like, he needed to do that. And that always sticks out to me, and I'll always remember that because I remember his name, but I won't say his name obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sticks out to me because this was like one of the bad boys in the school, and he's
Wow.
there, tears on his page, just writing lyrics, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is this, and I think that was also the moment where I said to myself, wow, like we've actually got something that's impactful.
Mm.
So yeah,
That'd be so interesting to see, like, where his thought process is now and how he views certain things, because that one moment could ultimately change the rest of his life.
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, and we've got
That's a,
like we've had young people who have reached out to me um, and the team and just kind of said thank you. If you guys didn't step in when you did, my life could be on a completely different path. Because when we're talking what 2018, if we're working with you when you're in year 9 in 2018, you're what, year 10, 11? You're an adult now.
yeah, you finished, yeah.
And you finished it. So this is what I'm saying.
Wow.
It's interesting. Mm.
Wow. Okay, so from being inside school, then, where do you feel traditional approaches to mental health support is falling short?
It's a good question. The first thing I say is I don't think a lot of young people want to, and take it with a pinch of salt because, like I said, every young person is different. I don't think, from my experience and what I've seen, a lot of young people don't actually want to talk to someone, talk to a stranger. They don't want to sit in a room with a stranger, have a conversation with them about their feelings and thoughts and what's going on. Partly because they have no rapport with that person, so they don't actually know you to tell you this stuff. A lot of these young people have trust issues in general. But I think that traditional sit down therapy is something that will be very effective for older people. But for younger people, I personally haven't seen it in schools where it's been effective. I've seen it where it's been somewhat effective, but not to the point of like this is impactful to this is going to change your life. Like I don't think I've seen that. So I think that's where it falls short is that we're still in this kind of mindset of all right, well, traditional therapy, sit down, have a conversation, talk about your feelings for 40 minutes, and then go back to your class. Stuff for me, I've not seen it work so far, and I've been in a few schools now, and I've seen their therapy spaces, and the spaces are nice, but children always say the same thing, and I think this is the other kind of like factor that's really important.
Yeah.
I think the other side to this is yes, it can work, but representation really matters as well. If the only person that you present me with is this old white lady,
He's gonna say that. I was ready for it.
it's true though. Like if like how are you going to be able to understand the experience of a young black boy who's getting slapped up by his dad or is slapped up by his mum or
Yeah.
even like has those struggles of gang culture or those struggles of I need to steal some money because I ain't got money.
Mm.
Those type of things are like and I would just sit there. If I was 15 and I was like presented with you and I had to speak to you, I would just be sitting there thinking, well, you're going to judge me or
Mm.
problem. And I think that, and again, like I say, it's not like because you got some amazing therapists that are old white ladies and that like you need
Yeah.
to be able to like relate to that therapist. I believe.
100%. 100%. And I have to agree with you on that because I think for me, being a therapist and working in schools, I am able to relate to so many people. I've been in trouble because I've had like a youth club in my office sometimes, like at lunchtime and break time, just because I can relate, I can have conversations, and then that just opens doors. Just being able to it's part of that. Like, yes, okay, it's not therapy in that moment, but because they feel comfortable and they feel connected with me, and to be honest, it doesn't even matter about the race for me because I can just connect. And I think rapport, and I even put a post about this the other day, like just your rapport and that essence of being relatable. And yeah, I can say I'm young, but but at the same time, I understand them. Yeah. I understand their world in terms of that TikTok world and this. Some of the slang I can't keep up with, but some of it I can keep up with. But I can understand them, and I think that makes such a big difference, especially for the boys. Boys need somebody that they can understand and they can talk to. I remember that there's loads of boys that I have in the current school that I'm in, and they've all gone now. They've all been kicked out. But I was devastated that they were kicked out because I love them. I love them. And I remember they told me, they kept saying, like, Miss, you're our favourite teacher, our favourite teacher. I'm like, I'm not your teacher, I'm not your therapist. And they were like, but Miss, we love you, we love you. And I was like, but why? And they're like, but Miss, because you listen and you respect us. No matter what we do, you always show us respect. So we can talk to you, we can have a conversation. And you mentioned this before, that level of respect, it goes a long way. And I don't sometimes understand why it's not both ways. It's more, I'm authority and I'm this and that's it. But how can you expect them to listen if you're not showing them respect? It just doesn't make sense.
You know what? It's a human element. Are you human or are you not? It's that simple. And I think that um, when I've worked in school and I've seen teachers that have behavior issues, I remember there was a teacher who sat me down in one of my last schools, in one of my old schools, and he said to me, "I really need to understand like how you're able to like deal with their behavior because this was don't get it twisted, this was a bad school.
Okay.
It was middle of Brixton, just like loads of different people from different areas in Brixton coming in. It was a bad school, but um, I sat down with him and I said to him, and he struggled with behavior so much, like ridiculously. And I said to him, when was the last time you walked through the corridor of the school and you stopped a child and you said to them, did you catch the football? Or you stopped them and you said to them, how's your day going? Or you stopped them and said hello? Or you stopped them and pointed at them and said, oh, your shoelace is undone, and their shoelace isn't undone, and you say, oh, I made you look. Like, when is the last time you did that? Like, that's the type of stuff that builds relationships. And relationships, if you don't have a relationship with a child, it's gonna be so hard for you. You're gonna always
It
find
will be, yeah.
that's half the job. You do like the teaching side of things, yeah, cool, we teach. But how are you gonna be able to teach if you can't handle the behavior in the class?
Yeah.
Behavior in the class comes from having those good relationships and building those relationships and creating a culture in your class where that culture is an open culture, a culture where you take a moment to bust a joke and have a laugh and then go back to the work. Let's look at the reality of things. If I look at everything that I teach in English, every single thing that I teach in English, um, I can't tell you right now. Like, I understand the base of how it helps, yeah, and I understand the rationale behind why I teach what I teach. But I can't tell you when I've used Shakespeare. So we're allowed as teachers to go off for a second, off topic for a second, and come back on topic. As a maths teacher, when was the last time I used, or if someone's
Algebra.
pi or algebra,
Yeah.
you're allowed to go off topic for a second, build some more relationships, and come back to it. And I think even like when you think about relationships, it's personal stories. Like, as much as they tell you, oh, you shouldn't be personal with the children, you shouldn't tell them personal. I tell them personal stories all the time. Whether it gets me in trouble, it gets me in trouble. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But my point is, those personal stories are also some of the things that build relationships. Obviously, within reason. You're not going to tell them some personal stories, but you will tell them some of those generic ones
Yeah.
that they can learn from. And it makes them realize as well when they hear these stories, actually, kind of get it. You're human. You've gone through some problems.
That's it.
Navigate it. I can, and then you have those conversations with them after when they're telling you about the problems that they're going through, and then you tell them how to navigate, and you're able to use stories to help them understand.
That's it.
And I don't know why teachers find it so hard. It's basics. This is basic stuff. Be a human being, care about the person, and crack on with it.
So do you think it's something that needs to be taught then? As in for teachers, like.
So this is a good question because I've actually thought about this quite a lot. We do so much CPD in school, continued professional development, and a lot of it is rubbish. A lot of it is a waste of time. A lot of it is some research that some bozo wrote that has spent 2 seconds in a classroom. But I think that should be one of the first things you are taught as a teacher about relationships and building relationships. Because if you cannot build relationships, it's like I said, you're going to really struggle to be a long-term teacher, to even just sit in a classroom with children. But I do think it should be taught. But the sad thing about it is, I don't think it should have to be taught. I think it should be taught, but I don't think it is something that, like, you should just know this.
Yeah, it should be embedded naturally, right? Yeah.
But I guess, again, think about one other element of this. You get a lot of teachers that will teach in like inner city London schools with no experience or understanding of how inner city London children operate.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a problem because then you're just going to think, oh, little Johnny's badly behaved. But you don't actually understand the complexities around little Johnny's.
Yeah.
And I think those things need to be taught as well. So like the culture and that relationship building, that this all one big thing that should be taught. And there's a big scope in schools for this to be taught in schools, I think.
I think culture is a big thing, and I think no matter where you are, like even here in the UAE, it's a different culture, like completely. And I think if you haven't touched on or worked in a culture similar, you will struggle because you won't be able to understand the children or the ways of where you even live in, essentially. So I really do think that's a big part of it. And I think, ultimately you should know what you're stepping into.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I've thought about a lot of things like teaching, like going to different countries and teaching and things like that. And that's one of the things that I've kind of said to myself, oh, this might be a bit difficult because I know in the UK I'm nice. It doesn't matter where I go in the UK, I'm going to understand the culture. I'm going to be able to understand that. Like if I was to move to, let's say, Canada, and like Canada it's got a different culture. Like there's a different way of doing things. Obviously, I would make it my best to kind of understand that culture, but then do my stories still are they still relevant in this culture? And I guess that's kind of the path where I'm trying to figure out. Well, if I go to another school, do I have to kind of understand their culture before we?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to adapt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's true. Like even I'm thinking here now, would your stories fit in? Maybe not, because they're gonna be like, "What? This is foreign to me." Like, what are you talking about?
But you know what's even crazy about that? It's like, would those stories fit in? Maybe not. But then I'm sure because I've lived 34 years on this earth, there is a story that will fit into that culture somehow.
Yeah, somehow, of course. Yeah, and there's TV. They watch Netflix. They watch all these things, so they will know about these things. There's social media, so they will know. But they would just the likelihood of them living that experience is thin. That's the only difference. That's what I would say.
But then again, you see on the flip side to that as well is that you then bring a uniqueness, and this is
Of course.
to say to teachers that come from those like out of state places and they come into an inner city London school, like sharing your experiences of being outside of the inner city is important. Like that gives people an insight to, oh, there's a bigger world outside of Brixton. There's a bigger world outside of Croydon.
Yeah.
Like they get to kind of experience your life and ask you questions around it. And I think that's still linked to culture. You build that culture in the classroom, isn't it?
Yeah. That could be actually really powerful if it was something that was embedded because if some children, they don't have the opportunity to leave the country, some people don't get to even go abroad. They've never been on a plane before.
Mm-hmm.
The furthest they've gone is getting a train to somewhere within the same area.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's nothing. Opening up into other people's cultures, yeah, it's true. It gives them great insight into what the world is actually like, and knowing how to have conversations with people that are not a part of their world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you say that, because even you see the whole train situation, which you just said. I remember bringing two boys from Brixton to Bromley, and it's not that far.
No, it's not. Still
And
south.
yeah, and one of the kids said he's never really been outside Brixton. Like, everything is Brixton, and he's spent what I think at the time he was about 17 at the time. He said 17 years in Brixton. That's all he's kind of like done. And he was so surprised because we're walking through Bromley. I took him to a studio in Bromley, and we're walking through Bromley, and he's like wondering, why on earth are these guys not looking at me? Why are they not staring in my face? Why are they not doing it? And he's like, yo, prof, I'm walking here, yeah, and no one, what's going on? I'm like, I said, yo, we're outside of Brixton now. Welcome to the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and again, to be honest, I mean, I think he should have travelled outside Brixton by 17. But when everything you have is in Brixton, all your family's there, the shops you need are there. Like, I mean, I get it.
Yeah,
Bromley's around the corner, man.
it is. Literally, it really is. I'm trying to digest it. I'm like, what? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. As we begin to wrap up,
Mm-hmm.
let me dive into this question actually. Yeah. So, if a teacher or a school leader is listening to this show right now, what's one thing you would want them to understand about young people sitting in the classroom?
I think it's that all young people are different. You can't box them into one space. And when you start boxing all young people into one space, that's when you start making mistakes, because all children have different lives. They have different kind of ways of thinking. They have uh, they have different experiences that shape them even from a really young age. Sometimes you only be able to understand it, but all children are reachable, and
Yeah.
all children, whether they behave badly or not, they're not bad children. They just need direction and guidance as to how to navigate the world.
Yeah. Ultimately that. Okay, so my final question. This is the
Wow.
question that I'm going to ask everybody on the show. Um, and if every school could make one change tomorrow, just one, to better support children's well-being, what would you change?
I wouldn't change something. I would add something.
Okay, what would you add?
Rap therapy.
Yay! I like that. And why?
Because you never know how impactful something can be until you also try it. So we've obviously got a track record of what we do. We are brilliant at what we do. We help young people, but then it's also a lot of the times teachers understand the schools that we're in. They understand that we're the experts in what we do. Like we've been rappers. We come from certain communities, and we've got a range of presenters that have different experiences.
Yeah.
Presenters that have autism. We have presenters that have Asperger's. We have presenters that have dyslexia, dyspraxia. So there's a lot of presenters that understand what these young people are actually going through. To have us there will make a world of a difference, because obviously we're able to reach them in a different capacity. And that's not to diminish what schools do. It's not to say, well, you don't do a good job. That's not it. We're just bringing a different flavor to your school.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately it, right? It is more about adding, because school's not a bad place. It is still, children's main safe place as well. So, yeah, I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on my show. The Wellbeing Table is privileged and honoured to have you. So, yeah, thank you. I'm your host, and this is Bish. And we thank you for being here, and we'll pull up a chair next time. See you soon.